The worldwide weenie tour.
Oh, we got T-shirts and everything.
Oh my
So we
God.
walk.
Oh yeah, where's mine, by the way?
It hasn't been delivered. It's gonna be delivered tomorrow.
Hell
So
yeah.
it's.
Oh yeah, I'll start ripping.
We walk into the first place. We have no idea what we're doing, right? And we walk in. We video the front. We walk in. And I'm running the camera. And like the guys are like looking at the menu. I'm like, what are you doing? Like we're ordering hot dogs, right? And so like,
But are you getting up the same like plain hot dog at each, or are you going with the
whatever,
works, or, like,
whatever,
the
whatever.
specific thing they're known for?
No, whatever they're known for, plain, whatever. No rules, just hot dogs. So you walk in and the guy's like, so I'm like waiting for my friends to order a hot dog, and I'm like, all right, I would like a hot dog, and he's like, okay, you get the last one. And I was like, what do you mean you get the last one? And he's like, it's Frankel's Deli.
Okay.
In Greenpoint, and they have a fantastic pastrami sandwich and all these things. And we haven't gotten the hot dog delivery yet. It's late. And I'm like, well, this is really good. I got the last one because this is the first stop on the Worldwide Weenie Tour.
Right. The Worldwide Weenie Tour is just the worldwide not Weenie Tour.
Without the hot dogs. So it was the only place I didn't email.
Wow.
Beforehand, because I'm like, it's just like a deli in the neighborhood.
They're gonna have hot dogs,
and they always have a hot dog.
I'm really happy for you that you got the last one.
Got the last one.
Also, super ironic timing. I had a hot dog yesterday for the first time in I don't know how long.
Yeah, they're having a thing this
They're
summer.
having a comeback.
Big summer for hot dogs for sure.
Hot dog summer.
You said it, not me. Welcome to the David Noble Show.
Thank you. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little nervous to be here.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Because I feel like you're going to challenge me in a way that I don't know that I'm ready to be challenged right now.
Awesome. That's the best time to challenge you.
I also have to admit I missed my stop on the subway and then had to get in an Uber to get here on time because I was busy Googling why Kim Kardashian became famous, in case you asked.
Why did she become famous?
I got really caught up with like, oh my God, now we're at Prince Street. Wait a second, that's after 14th Street. Oh no, I have to get there. I'm going the wrong way.
So you preempted the question. I was like, this was at the end of the interview. This was the end of the interview question.
I learned things I didn't know before. I didn't even know she worked for Paris Hilton. I didn't know about the sex tape. I live under a rock unless they're a former Disney Channel star.
Yeah, it's really sad story, actually, in my opinion.
That I live under a rock?
No,
or how she became
her
famous?
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a truly sad. And so I find it very interesting, but you can get past that.
Yeah.
You could get past getting fired.
Mm-hmm.
Has it ever happened?
I've never been fired.
Laid off?
I've been let go.
Oh, I've been like kind of fired, but like right before they were like, you're fired, I was like, fuck you.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the power move.
It was coming. It was coming
either way, but you get to like almost have a little laugh. An inside joke with yourself.
By the
about
time
it.
he got my badge, like hit him, I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. I said, I'm getting fired. And they said, no, but we are letting you. Okay, so backstory. I had a feeling. I had a gut feeling.
You knew it.
I knew it. I had asked my boss for a meeting because I was unhappy about something. And he put a meeting on my calendar early in the morning and for 15 minutes. And I'm like, that's odd. Why is it this early in the morning before stand-up? And why is it only 15 minutes? I have like an hour of bitching to do right now. And I immediately texted my few coworker friends and I was like, I am getting fired. I don't know why, but I know it's happening. And they're like, Ilana, that is absolutely batshit crazy. There's no way that's happening. I'm like, no, it is happening. I promise you. And they were like, you're being insane. Like, just text us after. I call him. I end up calling my boss because I'm like panicked. I'm like, this can't, like, how is this happening? I really believed I had the most job security on the planet. And he didn't answer. So the meeting comes. The second he gets on the Zoom call, I go, am I getting fired right now? I just blurted it out. And he said, you're not getting fired, but we are letting you go.
So, like,
so I'm getting fired.
Yeah, you're not being fired because you suck.
Right.
You're being let go because we're not doing this. We're not investing in this vertical.
Right.
We're not any set of reasons.
It's not a restructuring. It's not a layoff because it's not for financial reasons. There was no cause for us to fire you, but you no longer work here.
Right. We're not, did they do a podcast now?
Did they do? No, they don't do social media anymore.
So there you go. Like, that's their answer.
They actually stopped doing
right.
what I did.
What did you do?
Yeah.
So I always ask my students in the class, I'm like, all right, who here thinks they're going to get fired, laid off, whatever? You find yourself like no job. And no one person always raises their hand. No one else does. And it's like, well, it's 80% of you.
Yeah, it's happened to everyone I know at this point.
Correct. And it's the best economy in the history of the world.
Yeah. And I will say, when it happens to, like it happened recently to a best friend of mine who had a great job. She also thought she had a lot of job security and was very surprised when it happened. I said, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, we don't know when, but you will look back and say, thank God that happened.
Yeah, for sure. I had a roommate move in and move out like 30 minutes after meeting me. So like it kind of like
Dodged a
stings.
bullet, probably.
But then I realized like after knowing him, I'm like, oh,
It wouldn't have worked.
it wouldn't. I don't like you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we don't live in the same apartment. When I started law school, right? You're starting law school. It's not like college where you know people and you just go off and you randomly pair up. And he moved in. He's like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. He moved out.
Well, it's like dating. And at first it stings so much and you're like, what is wrong with me that this person doesn't like me? And then later you're like, thank God I didn't end up with them. Or that never would have worked. Or, oh my God, they're a horrible person.
It's 100%. Did you cry?
I did cry because
Did you cry out of anger or out of sadness?
the truth is I was miserable for the last 6 months before this happened. And I so badly wanted to leave, but my confidence had been crushed and I had attached my worth to this job. Like this job was my life. So I didn't feel like I could leave. I was like, where else will I go? And I've formed this identity around this company, around this role. I have no confidence to pitch myself. Like in what I do, I feel like at this point, it wasn't applying to other jobs. It was pitching myself to other companies. And I was like, there's only a few companies I can think of that would let me do this thing that I found that I love to do, but I don't have the confidence to put myself out there in that way right now. So I'm just going to stay. I'm going to stay here forever. I will be here forever.
I will take this abuse for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I was crying every day. I was miserable.
Out of anger or sadness? Tears come from different things.
I was crying out of anger.
Guys do not cry out of anger. So here's my relationship take for you, because you have like we'll get to my dream, but
your dream's not the Worldwide Weenie Tour?
no.
Okay.
That's my friend's dream. I'm just making
You're a good
his
friend.
dreams come true. Here it is, right? Women. This is when I was able to get married. Women cry out of anger more often than sadness, and men are so incredibly like would never cry out of anger that we think they're sad. So then we will try to console women when they're crying, and really you just need to run and hide.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I see that, yeah.
And I think at work, there's like a negativity to crying at work, right? Like showing emotion. And it's total bullshit, because emotion is purely biochemical. So like I'm like, of course you cried.
Yeah.
It was a biochemical reaction to a toxic
I was crying out of
relationship.
anger. Exactly. And that's exactly what I compare this job situation to. And when they laid me off, let me go, fired me, whatever you want to call it, I literally said to everybody, I described it as, this is a breakup that I didn't have the balls to do, that needed to happen for so long.
You got dumped.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what does it matter if you got dumped or divorced?
Yeah. But
Who cares?
now it's fun because I get to say that Hinge dumped me.
And there you go.
It's a funny story. But no, I think for 6 months I was crying out of anger. And then at the end, I was crying out of sadness, but my tears were very short. I think I cried during the call, and immediately after, I felt this 1,000, maybe 10,000 pound weight lifted
Just
off my
gone.
shoulders.
Just gone.
I've never felt more free.
Recently, I got a phone call and they were like, "You're not getting this job," and it was like double salary and big, and it like was a grieving period, but I'm also like really happy I don't have to go do that job.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've taken this out of your life. It can't be that much different than the dating.
Yeah, it's really not.
So like, there's probably something to learn there about dating your work.
Yeah. Don't make your job your identity. I mean, no job is worth that. And at the end of the day, no matter how much job security you believe you have, like everyone is disposable. And we get so excited about, you know, the dream job or the job with the double salary. And we get there and it's a job. And if you're surrounded by shitty people, the job sucks. If you're surrounded by awesome people who empower you and inspire you and lift you up and encourage you to be creative, but the salary is like a fraction, in a way that's better. You might be happier.
Do you like the job, or are you good at the job and therefore you like doing it?
I've been good at things that I don't enjoy doing.
For sure.
Do you like
You're
the
not
job?
great at things you don't enjoy doing, though. You know what I mean? Like you're passably good.
I'm,
Yeah.
yeah, you're probably right.
What do you do after you cry?
What
You're
do I
all
do
done.
After I cry.
You've had this experience. The weight is off your shoulders.
I was like, what do I do? I thought you meant like
No,
in
no,
general, like every time.
not every night when you go to bed.
Yeah,
no,
like,
no,
when
no.
was the last time I cried?
When
What
you
did I
when you
do
went
this
when you
time
went through
after
this
I cried?
experience, how do you then step by step? Like, what's the first thing you do when you wake up and you're like, all right, I'm going to build a podcast, or I'm going to
Yeah.
do this, or I'm going to do, like, you have to start living again.
Yeah. So I decided in that moment, actually, I have texts to my friends that I sent while this Zoom call firing was happening. And I said, I just got fired. I'm starting a podcast. And I knew I was not going to apply to jobs. I was not going to try and work at another company, because the same thing would have happened. I would have ended up feeling creatively stunted. I would have ended up feeling held back, feeling like I have something to prove, when I had already proven that what I'm good at and what I am passionate about and what I want to do worked and made a positive impact, and people wanted it. And I immediately just said, I'm going to believe in myself and give this a shot, and I'm going to start a dating podcast. And it took a little while. I think there were about 6 weeks in between that was pretty fast. There were 6 weeks between getting let go and launching Seeing Other People. And in those 6 weeks, I colored in adult coloring books every day. They were like adult curse word coloring
Yeah,
books.
I'm familiar with
I
them.
colored out all my feelings. I was very angry. Not at Hinge, at certain people I worked with who are the ones who, like I referenced before, killed my confidence. To this day,
Why would you ever let someone kill your confidence? That seems like you have to let them do that, right? Like as I said, I've only listened to a few of your dating podcasts, but that would be like my first dating advice. Is like, don't let people kill your.
when you're so wrapped up in something and then someone comes in and starts telling you no at every turn,
Oh, I know that feeling. That's in my life.
it's,
I'm in a multi-billion-dollar bureaucracy.
yeah, I don't know how you do that.
You bang your head on the wall, but like you don't let it. It's not you.
This person made me feel like it was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People listening to this would feel that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would. So, but why did you let him? And then how did you take that back?
I didn't think I had a choice. I mean, I think this was also a very tough time. This was 2020. Suddenly, my whole
Yeah.
life got flipped upside down. I'm living with my parents.
Which is super fun.
Living with my parents, I have zero. My only social activity was I was having back and neck problems, so I got to go to physical therapy, and that was my best hour of my week because I had human interaction outside of my parents.
Right.
So I had no outlet, and I found this thing I loved to do so badly, like so much, that I believed in so much. And after 12 episodes, I was told, no, you can't do this. I was told, make a 40 slide deck maybe in 3 quarters from now, like, we'll let you do this again. And I knew I was good at it. I knew it made an impact, and I just wanted to keep doing it. And people were asking, when is it coming back? When is it coming back? When is it coming back? And I had no control over it. And when you have no control over something at your company, what can you do besides not do it. And it just made me feel like, well, I guess I'm not good enough to do this thing. Or this person is telling me I'm not worth it to them, or what I have to bring to the table doesn't matter.
So why, when you were dumped, did you suddenly change? Why did you suddenly say, I can do this now? Like,
because it was up to me. I was the one in control suddenly. I was
the week before you were in control. That's
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you are.
No, I wasn't, because I had somebody telling me no. And when somebody's above
You could have quit the week before. You owned not quitting.
Then I wouldn't have gotten severance. Then I wouldn't have.
There you go.
Then I would have.
Good to stay.
Then I would.
Good to
it
stay
would
for
have
that.
felt like giving up.
Okay.
Versus, I don't know if it's like one.
You can't give up. This is, I'm seeing this over and over. You can't, it's not just, you can't give up now. Like, you're not going to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's a double negative. I get it. But like, you're not going to be successful.
Why am I going to leave a stable job in the middle of this pandemic when I have no confidence to pitch myself? I don't want to go to another company. I want to do this thing, but I am being told no.
Today, you know that's a broken mental map, right?
Yes.
Like, you know that wasn't a stable job because it went away.
Right.
No fault of your own.
Right. But at the time, it felt stable. I felt like I could be there forever.
Perception.
Yeah.
Or you told yourself that. I think that's why people are afraid to go build the podcast.
Right.
And like they pulled it out, and you're like, immediately, you're telling me, if I'm going to believe you, you're immediately going, fuck this, I'm going to go do the podcast now. Mm-hmm. They let me do it.
I mean, they did. Like, in a way. And the person specifically that I extremely dislike was not the boss that let me go. That person I have immense respect for and always will. And the HR person who was on the call, the CEO, all of these people were telling me, Ilana, you made such an impact here. This has nothing to do with like you or anything. Like, this feels so wrong, like not having you being here. But something in that call reminded me, like, just my conversation with him reminded me of like everything that I was capable of. And I think that empowered me also to be like, wow, I'm free of the restraint that I've felt. I'm free of being told no. And so to answer your initial question of like, what did I do the next morning? I got let go along with one other person from the company at the time. And she was just as surprised as I was. And we held each other accountable for not just sitting on our ass and doing nothing. Every morning at 10 a.m., we had a stand-up call together and talked about what we were going to do that day. Even if it was just going for a walk and coloring in a page of the book that said, fuck you. That was what we did. We held each other accountable for maintaining some sense of normalcy, for creating goals for the day, whether they were tiny or large. And we went on from there.
I think we should like plan out like an elaborate prank on this person and run it over like a long con, like a 12, 18-month period. This piece where so many people are afraid to do the thing they know they should be doing. Mm-hmm. You didn't think of, I'm going to start a podcast in that moment. You wanted to start a podcast. You wanted to do this. And you got the courage because you had no choice.
Yeah.
You still could have been like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast and then not do it. And not build this successful podcast, not build out this, the amount of work that you've put in. You could have bailed at anywhere down the line.
Still can.
And still can. And definitely, I doubt it. But, I think you could still bail. You could bail. But you put in the work, right? But the intentionality, the thought process, you wanted it.
I wanted it.
Yeah. I think that's the scariest thing in life to me is like if you want something and you just won't take it. Mm-hmm. Because there always comes a point where nobody's going to give it to you. You have to take it.
Yeah, and we're all our toughest critics. We all hold ourselves back from so much all the time.
I got free pickles today.
You did?
Yeah, because I told the guy that we were on the weenie tour. So he rolled out with pickles. They were good.
I love pickles.
Frankel's Greenpoint.
See, I would do Worldwide weenie.
Yeah.
Peninsula.
It took a lot of work
Perfect
to get the
pickle.
worldwide weenie tour. That
Perfect
name
pickle.
that was a lot. Yeah, perfect pickle.
Perfect pickle.
Prancing.
Yeah,
the
perfect
pickle
pickle
prance. The promenading.
That's what I would do.
Promenading. Yeah,
Catch me on that soon.
pickles is interesting. I definitely want to do a TV show on pickle people.
Oh.
Like at some point.
Okay.
Like, no, they're weird. Like there's a super subculture on pickles, Chris. It's
What
like,
about picklebacks? You guys heard about picklebacks?
Yeah.
Like pickleback shots?
Yeah.
Oh, love.
Love.
Okay.
People drink pickleback juice for
You'll never
dehydration.
catch me consuming whiskey in any other form. Like I won't
Other
drink
than
it
picklebacks.
unless it's a pickleback.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. It seems like you're either about that pickleback life or not. I just want you to know that for non-pickleback people, like the mixing whiskey and pickle juice smells, we're not rocking with that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean it's our problem, not yours, really.
It's
but
unfortunate. It's your
yeah,
loss, actually.
Yeah, I guess.
There's a bar near me that actually does pickle martinis.
All right.
And they have fried pickles on the menu. It's the best.
Pickle people.
Pickle people.
There are pickle people. I love pickles. I cannot eat a fried pickle. And I eat a lot
Why?
I eat a lot of fried food.
Wait, why? Think I don't love fried food. I love fried pickles.
They're too that's what they are. I know that doesn't translate to sound, but it's like
I understand.
like it's just no. No, that's the one. It's like the one fried food I can't do. And I love pickles.
Who hurt you?
So, I just don't like it. I take them and I don't like them. Very limited things I don't like. Peas, avocados, fried pickles. Very few, like that might be it.
They're all green.
I love vegetables. I eat a ton of vegetables. So, but that's not that anywhere near as interesting as this podcast story, like the origin story. You really, thank you for digging into it. I know you said you were nervous, but it wasn't that bad, was it?
No.
Yeah. The weight comes off your shoulders. You start holding yourself accountable, acting. I call that acting like an adult, right? Like you're not worried about them paying you anymore because they're not going to pay you. You got your severance. So like you don't have dad.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, you were already living at home, so you didn't have to move out and move home.
I was still paying rent.
You got to pay rent.
Got to pay rent.
That's fine.
Still had not to my parents at my childhood
you
home,
were
but
paying in
my
New York,
apartment.
yeah.
Yes.
Could have been worse, right? Like nobody, because nobody knows. All right, here's the thing: you get kicked out, like you stop paying rent. Whatever the worst thing happened, nobody would have known.
Yeah.
In that time frame, this
Totally.
was the best time frame for this to happen, possibly.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I also had so much time now to be creative.
And you didn't have to see people.
I didn't have to see people.
And tell them why you're not working in this dream job, in this situation, that the podcast that they were waiting.
Well, on the flip side, I actually was very open about it. I posted on Instagram and on my LinkedIn and said I got let go. And I owned it. And I ended up not just having a lot of like really meaningful conversations with people, but I ended up forming friendships with other people who either at that point or later on were in the same boat, saw that post and reached out.
Had gone through that relationship trauma.
Yeah.
And could relate, want to help.
Yeah.
Because we all go through it at some point.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason I wanted to be public about it was because my job was so public. My job description was the face of Hinge. My Instagram was Ilana From Hinge. People would come up to me on the street pre-COVID and be like, oh my God, you're Ilana From Hinge. Like it was a part of me. And there was no world in which I could have just, changed my Instagram handle. I couldn't have just like gone out quietly and I wouldn't have wanted to either.
Right. So you start working 6 weeks later, you have the podcast.
Yes.
What are the most memorable pieces that you built in that 6 weeks before the podcast launches? All right, let's back it up. Where did seeing other people come from in that?
Seeing other people was one of like 30 names. I did not like it, but I did a whole like bracket on Instagram and it kept winning.
And people, how many followers do you have on Instagram at that point?
I think I had the podcast account, so the original podcast was called Dating Sucks.
Right.
That was the Hinge podcast that I started. And because I produced it, because I was the host, because I prepped every episode, did every post, like they were like, you
owned
did
the social.
this. And we love you and respect you and want you to succeed. So like it was a parting gift.
Oh,
and I
there
was
you go.
very fortunate
That's
because
a good one.
that was 5,000's not a big number, but it's not a small number
It's a
either.
real number. We get like 17 people that I'm up from a dozen, but it's like 17.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But that was all my audience that had been waiting and waiting and waiting for more of me hosting a podcast. So they were voting on it. And I think my personal account probably had like somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 also. And so I had a built-in audience waiting for me to bring this content back. Yes.
I'm enthralled.
Cool.
Like,
Love
this is
it.
good.
Great. I don't think I did that much, is the truth. I think most of that 6 weeks was waiting for the confirmation that they were going to pass on the account to me and the RSS feed for the podcast, getting all that sorted out because that took a while and was like touch and go for a bit. So it was a bit of waiting. And again, I was coloring out my feelings. I was like going through this therapeutic healing process and processing this breakup. And I was recording the first few episodes. I didn't do much. I didn't plant too many roots. I didn't prep that much. I was just so excited to start doing it again. I just wanted to do it.
All right. And so that is a wonderful gift, actually, if you think about it, like to be able to start. And most people will not get that.
No.
But they'll have something that existed from before. And I think that's when we started, like, we came up with the David Noble show, right? Like, that was really, and like we dealt with a lot of bad names and a lot of stupid things.
I have so many lists in my phone of awful names.
Yeah.
I mean, my first podcast was called Dating Sucks. That was as creative as I could get.
We refused to name it until like the night before we were going to publish, like, basically the first thing.
How did you land on?
Chris said, we're just going to do this because your name sucks. And like, we're going to do this. And then
David hated the name that I had for it. And
What was your
I
name?
hate naming anything
What was
anyway.
your
It
name?
was Out of Office.
Out
was
of
one
Office.
of
I
them.
like that.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
Really
It's a decent name. As bad as I am at naming things, I was pretty happy with it because it went
I would
into
listen
this
to that.
weird professor thing. I also wanted to call it Nutty Professor. I don't think I actually wanted to use that one, but
I would have been more for that.
yeah. But
I like Out of Office a lot.
yeah, I thought it was good. But regardless, it's better because it'll follow him wherever he goes,
Yeah.
like to the Worldwide Weenie Tour and beyond. You know.
Worldwide. This is the most exciting thing. Like next year, I'm already thinking about next year, Albany to Buffalo. I think there's so many fat people, hot dogs along that route, places.
How do you even know that? Are you sure this is your friend's
All right,
dream, not
so-
yours? I
so
think
I have
I
multiple-
think there's some lies there.
I have multiple friend groups that are very devoted to the hot dog world. And one of those guys.
and you're at the core of them.
Yeah, I'm the bridge between two worlds, and they're coming together in Stamford on Friday. Actually, probably Walters and Mamaroneck on Friday. But they're coming together. They're colliding. So I also have a friend who has like a list. He has a database of hot, and he's like the one person that gets on the premiere and watches the. When Chris hits publish, he's the one person that watches it. Like,
Love
I was
that.
wondering who that was.
yeah, it's this guy, and and then he sends me texts of things I say or you say. It's pretty good. He's gonna send me a text that says you said I do this, but he when we became friends, he had like hot dogs, hamburgers, and like pizza all over the world. Like he has his own database, so he's like Sister Snack. Like if Sister Snacking ever got together with his database, it would be something insane. And so like if I'm in St. Louis, he'll be like, oh, go to this place. I haven't been there. I need you to taste it and tell me if it's worth going to. And so, because I
Crazy.
travel all the time and that's our friendship. So when he found out I liked hot dogs, like that's okay, go to this place, go to this place. So that's how that happened. So I know, and he sends all the articles and all that stuff. So I know all that. And then I go to a lot of them. And what we've decided is I have a friend that's a vortex of commonality.
Mm-hmm.
When he likes hot dogs, we all start to like hot dogs. And then we become the hot dog people. So like you, when we started saying, all right, well, we got to do some kind of social whatever, I'm not going to I'll do what you tell me, but I'm only going to do what you tell me. And I'm not going to really think of much. hot dogs kept coming up. And the only thing that performed, now every time there's a clip that's doing like 5, 10, 20,000 on YouTube Shorts, but the only thing that would get anyone to look at what we were doing was me jamming a hot dog down my face. And so I was like,
Gotta
oh.
love the internet.
So if that's what I am on the internet, that's what I am.
The World Wide Web meets the World Wide Weenies.
That's right. And then we hit, when we heard Worldwide Weenie,
You do.
that was it.
Well, yeah, once you got the name.
And that came from the t-shirt guy. So I have like a t-shirt guy that like, he's like, oh, you need this hat for the David Noble show and we'll send you one. And he's like, you need this t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So it's the same with the podcast. This is the point to bring it full circle. You knew how to make a podcast.
Yes.
You had the social account, you had the feed. You had these pieces to the puzzle. And we'll often sit around and we'll be like, oh, that person's interesting. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do this? You had Piper on your show. Why doesn't she have a podcast? Why doesn't Doorman Story? Why are they doing what they're doing, but not doing this? And people think it's unattainable. Yeah. It's going to go. They think it's unattainable, right? Like they think they can't do it. And they think it's hard. And I've wanted to do a podcast for a long time, like do something fun, be myself, enjoy it, be the nutty professor, like my version of it. But it's so unattainable. You think you can't do it. You try and you hit a bump. And that easy thing for you to do is really hard for Atu.
Yeah.
And like, I think,
well, most people don't even try. They just think, like you said, it's unattainable. They're like, well,
the first
why
step is
me? Like, why me? Why would I be able to do this? But why not?
hyper specialization of entertainment. You have to hyper specialize. And then what you're hyper specialized in has an audience size of X. You pick dating, which is a fantastic thing. You found a niche, like you're enjoying it. It's clear hearing your voice on the thing. I'm like, oh, these girls are talking, right? Like 46-year-old dude, like I'm married for 10 years. I'm not your audience, but like you can hear the tone in your voice that you're having fun in these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a big, there's a big potential audience there.
I love it. I think the conversation, there's a lot of things I do, and the actual recordings are my favorite part, without a doubt.
How do you prep for your interviews? Or do you not?
It depends. I do a few different types of episodes. I have expert guests on. So I have a lot of therapists come on, authors.
You shouldn't let them in.
And people with different types of expertise that can relate to.
They bring an audience?
Sometimes.
Okay.
So, well, it depends, because sometimes I'll have someone who has a few 100,000 followers on, and sometimes I'll have someone who has a few hundred followers on.
Okay.
And I actually find that
the few hundred usually have a little more precision.
I enjoy those conversations a lot more. If it's an expert guest, I had this author on 2 days ago. I recorded with her, and I read her book in preparation. I read her book.
Nice.
I read her blog. I wanted to feel prepared. I wanted to have a really engaging conversation. I find that people are very surprised when you've actually done your research. So if it's somebody like that, I will put in the time to, really learn about them. I think my goal is always to ask them something they've never been asked before. And I usually at the end, which is really wonderful, I get great feedback from them of like, wow, I loved that interview. Like I haven't had so much fun on an interview, or I haven't had like such a thought-provoking interview conversation in so long. Like, thank you for that. And that's like the coolest thing in the world to me. I also will have my listeners and friends come on. So half of my episodes are actually my listeners coming on anonymously to share something that they've been through, whether it's been specifically in their dating life or in a relationship, or whether it's been like how losing a parent or a sibling impacts the way they show up in their dating life and their relationships, or having a disability, having an STI, having a chronic illness, how that impacts their dating and relationship journey. I also will talk about like mental health, friendship, finances, everything, and just how it connects back to dating and relationships. So the episodes with, let's say normal people, I don't do any prep. I have no outline. I really go into it wanting it to be a organic, candid conversation, so that people listening feel like they're just sitting on the couch with their friends. And that's really how those episodes end up coming out.
That's fair. And like, it makes sense. Like, and I think every podcast and whatever anyone wants to prepare they would prepare differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea that like Chris will always be like, don't talk beforehand. Because like us talking is what he's looking for. So he's like, don't talk. So Otto's like calling people and having conversations. But I also think like I listen to an episode of your podcast. Like I said, it's not my audience. It's not what I would do. But that's a tough way to prepare because I only hear you here, there, right? And you're listening. So I guess I'm listening to what you're asking and where you're interjecting and trying to learn from what you're doing while I'm doing it. So there's a lot of thought processes. I think, again, that tone in your voice is very clear. And I think when I looked at it, when I thought about it, I thought to myself too, like, how do you get that? How do you transfer that much enjoyment into the tone of the voice? Because I didn't watch it. I just listened, right? And so it was like, oh, this is a happy person. It's what you're putting out a lot of times, and went through some of the social. How did you get there? Like, you went through this really traumatic period. How did you get to where you are today? Like, mentally, not the business of the podcasting.
I think what I've found so much beauty in through this journey and this business is the power of human connection. And I've learned so much from my guests. I've learned so much from my listeners. I've learned so much from my experiences in life, in dating and relationships. And I go into each recording not as though I'm like hosting a podcast, but as though this is 45 minutes to sit down with somebody and learn from them and ask them questions and hear what they've been through. And I think I've just found so much joy in the art of making people feel like accepted and understood and seen and heard, because we all feel so alone in everything that we've been through. And so
who's we? When you say that, we all feel so. This is
everybody. I think everybody. We all go through things in life that could be heartbreaking, that could be tragic, that could be traumatic. And when going through it, I think maybe not all of us, but a lot of us feel like nobody understands what this feels like. Nobody's ever had their heart broken the way I have
yes.
my heart broken right now. No one could possibly know what this is
so
like.
important. I'm so self-centered. Those are the words. Like, my ego.
Like,
right?
this hurts me more than it could
It
possibly,
could possibly
have ever
hurt you.
hurt
How could
anybody
you
else.
understand what I'm going through?
And
Which is, all right. We'll take a very serious point. I've never lost a parent. I grew up in a funeral home, 100-year family business.
Oh.
I watched people lose parents.
Yeah.
And so, like, most people will go, how are you doing? How the fuck do you think I'm doing?
Horrible.
Yeah, life's miserable. You're going through a divorce. How are you doing? It's awful. You just started dating. How are you doing? I think the reality of saying what it is, I know you're feeling horrible. How can I help you?
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
And people don't think to ask that.
Do you think it's because they don't want to, or is it they're afraid?
I think they genuinely don't know how. I think they don't know how. They don't know if that's an appropriate question to ask, and they don't think to ask that. They don't.
But you're
think
asking it every day on your podcast,
right?
There's people struggling.
But because I've talked to so many people and heard so many struggles, and I feel like I have this inside look at, like, everyone is going through something or has been through something. And, when most people go about their daily life and go to their job, they're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about, like, the really deep, hard shit that all of their coworkers have been through. But I'm getting it in my DMs every day. I'm getting it in my emails every day. I went through a lot of it in my dating life, which is why I ended up doing this.
Have you been a boss yet? Like, Do you have employees, or did you have employees at Hinge?
I've had an editor for 3 years who I've worked with, and while I've never had anyone report into me, I specifically did not want to be a manager. When I was at Hinge, I said that's not.
You were Ilana at Hinge.
I was on at Hinge, but there was a question of like, well, everyone here goes down the management track at some point.
At some point
like,
to get paid.
Right. I'm like, but that's not what I'm here to do.
I've been arguing for years that people should be paid really, really well for the things they do really, really well.
What a concept.
And quit making them try to manage people because they're idiots and they can't manage people. And like,
I think that's one of the biggest issues in corporate America is that managers aren't trained to manage. And they don't know how to do that.
I saw it with my mother. My mother is a funeral director, right?
Yeah.
She's one of the greatest funeral directors in the world ever. Like, and I watched it, and I worked for a lot of funeral directors. And like, she became a great owner of a funeral home eventually, but that's not what she loved. That's not why she got in. You don't get into podcasting or media production or to become a manager of people.
Right.
Like, certainly not on this side of the camera.
Right. Correct. But yes, I have one employee who's worked for me for 3 years. I've had interns and...
How many people do you have to like try and then ditch?
No, that hasn't happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chris and I tried different, like this guy. I don't even know where this guy came from.
He looks like he's doing good. He hasn't messed anything up.
He just sort of sits there.
He's great at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does a good thumbs up.
Yeah.
Cool. Love
there
it.
There you go. We definitely don't give him a microphone.
And I love mentoring students. I went to Syracuse. Sorry.
What is this Syracuse pipeline you keep ringing? So I got a Syracuse guy. So I have a very legitimate, real problem right now. I have my first national championship ring I got for this finger. And I'm like, I don't know where to get the second one. And the Syracuse neighbor was walking through the building by the doorman. I'm like, I saw the doorman. I'm like, well, watch this. Hey, man, come here. I got this problem. Can you tell me where the second ring goes? And then I was like, oh, you're at Syracuse. You have no idea.
Fair.
You know, like, we don't like Syracuse.
That's okay.
This is UConn.
That's okay. UConn. I'll take it. But I go back and speak to some students there often, and I end up like forming connections with them and
communication school,
television, radio, film, and music business.
I've dealt with a number of graduates from there, and we've actually sent UConn students to the master's program there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you like to mentor.
Love.
You've kind of tried to avoid being a manager.
Yes.
Now you're a business owner, though. There's no way to conceptualize yourself as not a business owner, right?
Correct. But I think I'm the world's worst business owner.
No.
I
talked to someone this morning that lost $80,000 taking a job. So you're not the world's worst.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, I'm in this for the creativity, the connection aspect of it. I also have to make money and pay the bills and want to grow this business, but I never set out to be... Like, you have to wear so many hats as an entrepreneur.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and I'm not a good...
What's your favorite hat not doing the podcast? You mentioned that's like my happiest hour.
Yeah.
What's your other favorite hat?
That's a good question. I love editing.
Editing. So, all
Though
right,
I have
so
an
the technical
editor, but I also have a second podcast called Life in Progress that I co-host with my best friend Carly Silverman, and I edit that one.
What do you guys do on that podcast? I missed that.
Is
it hidden?
It's not. No.
I missed it.
It's there.
I failed.
That's okay. No, you didn't fail. You learned.
Yeah.
You learned something.
Yeah, you sound like me. So
we talk about dating as well. She had a similar role to me, but at the Dating App Locks Club. And that's how we connected because she got let go. Fired, laid off. And we connected. We trauma bonded over that and became best friends. We talk about everything related to life in your 20s, 30s, adulting. So friendships, breakups, career, moving to a new city, making friends, like all that. Yes.
What's your least favorite hat to wear? The one that like you avoid all day long for 3 weeks. Mine's sending emails.
I'm the worst I'm so bad at sending emails. But it's all this like strategy that I really should be doing for the podcast to grow it that I just don't want to do. I don't know why. Like, it's pitching myself onto other shows that are larger than mine. It's bringing in guests who have millions of followers. And I don't, for not for a single second do I think I can't get on those shows or I can't get them on. I'm just like, everyone goes on those shows. Everyone has these people on. Like, I'd rather talk to Amanda, who
David.
is 34, who just got engaged and divorced, or engaged, married, and divorced in 10 months, who has 300 followers on Instagram. I'd rather talk to her about her experience than talk to someone who just came off The Bachelorette who has 3 million followers. I don't care.
If you were running an honest dating app, you would never talk to anyone that went on The Bachelor or Bachelorette.
But that's how to grow. By bringing in those people with audiences.
But just because you do something organic and authentic doesn't mean you're not good at the strategy.
You didn't ask what I'm not good at. You asked my least favorite part.
Okay. All right. So you don't like thinking through that. Is that why you were nervous and prepared?
No, I was nervous because when I was listening to you, I felt like you challenged people in the questions that you asked.
Only if I'm in a bad mood.
Oh, no, I like it. I think it's a good thing. I enjoy it. But
So
I was like, oh, what's he going to ask
my
me?
hypothesis is everyone comes in with a story to tell that's fake, and it's a origin story narrative, and they want to tell this story. And like, if you were building a podcast, you want to know like, oh shit, everything went wrong. What do I do? Mm-hmm. The answer is always the same, right? Like, the recipe for success has not changed in a million. Pat Collins, former guy, operations director at football, would yell at me. Mm. The recipe for success has not changed. Hard work equals success. You can't, there's no shortcut, there's no silver bullet, there's no magic. And so, but people are looking for that first step, that one thing like that can put me onto the road to taking the next step. You lose someone, you break up a relationship or whatever. How do you're crying because you just got let go. How do you take the next step? You just fucking go and do it.
You do it.
There's no magic.
There isn't.
And so, no, I mean, I think it's a really fascinating juxtaposition. Thank God that you blow my mind that they gave you the RSS feed like that. Like, that's a that is
that was it was a gift.
Yeah, starting from zero would be tough.
And they were like, we were thinking about that.
How did you like, hello, I've been working here. It's not really working for us. You've decided this. I've done all of these things around this.
I think I was just like, can I have it? Like, what are you going to do with it? If you're shutting down social and you're not pursuing podcasts, why do you need it?
What would you have done if they said no?
I would have said, fuck you. That sucks. That's really shitty. And you know what? I probably would have talked a lot more shit about them than I have.
Yeah, because you've been very nice. And like, you were like, I think the greatest of this person and this. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, like, I'd take their knees out. Like,
yeah,
maybe like,
I probably
maybe
would
light
have.
their house on fire.
Get a new hinge for those knees.
They would like, you have gone out of your way to say there's a person that made everything toxic.
It's
we
true.
don't need their name.
It's true.
But the rest of the place is okay. And I'm saying, fuck you. Because if you let that person be in your organization and make other people feel that way, you have to own that. There's a CEO, a vice president, and a person that should be owning that shit.
I mean, listen, I was going to HR every week.
And they chose that person over you.
Yeah, and then he got the axe too.
Like, let's fight.
It's all good.
No, I mean, you have overcome that.
Yeah.
You have made it better. It is not all good. And like, you don't, like, it's not all good. It's not. Because people can't let those people run the organizations.
Yeah.
You're nice. You got some of the things you want. Taking what you got plus severance, I agree. You do you.
Listen, I also got this.
Right. A whole bunch of stuff. You got married. I saw that.
We met on Hinge.
Yeah. Who cares? You would have met somewhere. If it's the person, you would have met them. Right?
Maybe.
You would have done
Hopefully.
it. here's what. When you close your eyes as the entrepreneur and go to bed at night, where are you going? Where does this go? What do you dream about?
Last night I dreamed about my toxic ex, probably because I was having a recording today about toxic relationships and workplaces, which is funny, right before this. So that's where I went last night. I really, in terms of like where I want this to go, is people ask me all the time, like, do you have a certain like dream guest that once you have them, you'll feel like you did it all? Like, it was the Jonas Brothers, and I did have them.
No, yeah. You get to the top of the mountain, you see another mountain. But what's your business? What's your business dream? Like you're only like, what, 26, 27, somewhere in that area.
Maybe 30,
like 30.
in like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I was being nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
I just want to. I want to feel.
in 70, you're not doing a dating podcast.
No. I don't know. I'm happy with where I'm at right now. My like 5-year goal, I'd love to continue doing what I'm doing with less financial stress, which is just because of the instability. And that's because I'm a bad business person. But long term.
Can you make money tomorrow? Can you find a way to make $1,000 tomorrow? If you were pressed, can you sit at your cell phone and find yourself $1,000 tomorrow?
Yes.
You have no instability. You can buy a hotel room tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're never going to be homeless.
Correct.
That's
I need you to tell me this every night before I go to bed.
No, certainly not. But I mean, like, you're doing things. Things are going well, and you're talking about instability instead about building the house.
Last month was my best month of the year. This month is my worst month of the year. And that's where it comes from. There's no guaranteed paycheck. There's no salary. There's no ceiling either.
Who has a guaranteed paycheck?
That's true.
That's
true. You could lose your job.
Those people at Hinge, I think they got a guaranteed
one at
paycheck.
Hinge. Yeah, like, apparently if you're an asshole at Hinge, you can keep getting paid.
There are nice people who work there.
Yeah, for sure they're nice people. But I mean, like, that's the pushback. You wanted a little pushback. That's my pushback. Is instability is the wrong word for what you're doing. You're building a house, and you can re-foundation things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I don't care about your 5-year plan. I want to know, like, what's your like, what is that thing that's way too scary to say out loud? Like, that's what's interesting. Because I'll give you why, just to try to convince you. Every one of us has that thing that we're just too afraid to say out loud.
I don't know.
Because, like, if
what's yours?
So that's a really good question at this point. I think really some position over enough capital to very quickly react to what I see. I think when I see Rupert Murdoch, when I see like a lot of really bad, horrible people that run really, really big, 20, 50, 100 billion. Like, I'm like, I now believe I could do that. And that's what I would want to do, especially probably on the investment side, the media side, those things. And so, like, I think it's hard for people to say those things because then if they don't, they think if they don't achieve it, then they failed. And that's not true at all. Like, nobody's ever like been like, I want to be the greatest podcast host in the history of the world, and I'm going to do all this work to do it, which I believe that's you. Because you wouldn't be enjoying it as much. You wouldn't like all those pieces and like getting to know you a little. But nobody's ever done that and been the worst. Like,
I don't want to be the best though.
Okay.
I don't need to have Alex Cooper level success. I
didn't say the most successful. I said the best. You don't want to be.
I don't need to. But if I was the best, I think I would be less relatable to my audience, to the people I'm interviewing, and I don't want that. I want them to feel like they're just sitting down having a conversation with a friend.
Brie Chicken Fry is one of the best. I would say she's very relatable.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you're.
Fair.
I mean, you can come back in like 2 months, 3 months, and we'll talk about this, and we'll work on the strategy if you want along the way. I think you could be the best and be very relatable. You could, because like the way you're going to be the best is being you, and like, but like getting every. I don't like. I listen to your podcast. Your shit looks buttoned up. It's like tight. These are good things. These are you're working on the way you talk to guests. It's fantastic. And so I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh, okay, all right. Someone that wants to be really good. That's interesting to me. That's the only thing that's interesting to me. People that want to be the best, and like, but not that say they want to be the best. I could care less about that. It's like people that take the actions necessary to try to be the best. Chris wants to be the best podcast producer in the whole wide world. He's never going to be the worst because you can get 9/10 of the way there just on hard work.
Right.
Just on hard work, you can be better than 90% of everybody else doing something. So you're going to eat. That's your stability, is being good at something. That's your financial, like, people will pay. I'll pay you tomorrow to come do XYZ. Like, we'll
tell me more.
Yeah, I don't have to, but you know, the other piece is like when someone needs help, other people will help.
Yes.
If you're that, like, you're that person. You're the person going on the person's podcast with 190 subscribers.
Correct.
Like, so somebody's going to help you.
Yeah, you're right.
So what do you want to be? What's that thing that you're afraid to say? Because we're out of time.
I've been thinking about this the last 5 minutes. I mean, I'm curious what your response is going to be if you think I'm still holding back, or if
you can just try
bad
and we'll
thing.
come back in 3 months.
I want to feel comfortable. My dream is being a mom, living in a nice house in the suburbs, continuing to be a podcast host, and not feeling immense pressure to always be growing that.
Excellent.
I want it to be stable. I want it to be successful. And I want it to not feel like a big weight on my shoulders. I want to be happy while also doing this thing that I love, while also being a mom.
You've created the impossible spectrum. And you don't even answer this. I'll tell you what the pushback would be. Which one are you going to sacrifice once you've built out all of those things? Because as they start going in parallel, one of them gets sacrificed first, which causes deterioration in one or the other, because you can only be that great in one vertical. That would be the pushback question. And don't even think about answering it, because like we can come back. You have to leave. I think what I would really love to know, and I think kids would like to know, the stability component, it's always a facade, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you have to be growing, but like that need for stability is going to create weak links in all those verticals. Because then what happens if your husband gets hit by a bus? What happens if your kid turns into whatever? What happens if this? And so it will only be a facade. And so like I've enjoyed this, so thank you.
Same. I'm sad
I
to
hope
leave.
I wasn't mean.
You were not. You were wonderful.
Right, that's good. That's always a challenge for me. I think that's where we'll come back someday when you're ready, and we'll talk about that if you're willing.
I'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we're not doing tomorrow, but I mean, I think
But we need to try.
I'd love for you to be able to keep doing, and look at this and start to say, like, what does this stability thing
I know.
actually mean? Because, like, it's not a paycheck every week. You already learned that gets pulled. It's not a house, because you can lose your house. I got hit by a tornado April 27, 2011.
Jeez.
Like, watch that video from Tuscaloosa. So it's not these things.
Yeah.
And I think people are building lives thinking things are stable that blow up.
Right.
And then what do you do? And, like, I'll close it. Sorry, I feel like I monopolized this, but
No, this is good. This is
remember
very
that
thought-provoking.
question, like, who's gonna get fired, let go, whatever? And that one kid raised his hand. He looked around the room and he's like, I'm a loser. I'm the only person that raised my hand. But it's just mathematics, right? Mm-hmm. And he said the day the banks merged and they decided this department no longer exists because we have two of them, so you're gone at 27. He was like, oh, I'd already dealt with the fact
Yep.
that this was coming.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that's most of the obstacle to our relationship, our personal growth, our physical well-being, is like, we want something that's not really gettable.
Yeah.
And instead it's hard work.
There will always be something.
If you're willing to do hard work,
Yeah.
you're okay. You're stable. That's the stable piece.
Yeah.
So that's my,
Hard work, hot dogs, pickles.
hot dogs, pickles. Yeah.
Have you ever tried a hot dog with a pickle bun? There's a place that does that. Like, I don't know.
So
if it's on
yeah,
your
they got a
list.
whole set of things. So I was involved in. So I just got off the phone. I can't. you ask. You can't make this up. And they said, oh, blah blah. I said, well, the guy in LA just opened up his shop with, like, and he's calling them canoes. And the guy in New York or whatever that's doing this,
Yeah.
started. There was a bunch of press in the last month, right, on the pickle thing. And when I met the guy, it was because he was here and they were supposed to do something together.
Oh my God.
And it didn't get done. So I'm like afraid to ask what happened, why we have two separate things.
Yep.
But I was texting one of the guys every time I saw that. I'm like, hey. And he's like, yeah. And, like, nobody's answering the question. So the one in LA is, what's the girl? Tana, what's her name?
Tana Monroe, yeah.
Yeah, she's the one that blew up that LA pickle guy.
Got it.
Kaylin Pickles. And he's the pickle
Copy.
guy. And he's in, like, the LA whatever. And she, like, TikTokers go there and do videos. And she did one, and it was like 20 million views and blew up. So we'll send Kaylin a thing that you need some pickles.
Yes.
So that's doable.
I
Thank
need
you for coming by. I'd love it if you came back and talked about that
I would love
instability, because I think that's a meaningful piece that holds people back from going and doing what they really want to be doing.
Yeah.
And someone pulled it out from under you. You went and did it. And, and that's how magic happens.
I can't believe you made it through this without knocking your coffee over.
I'm amazing.
It was like,
First
I was
class.
like looking at the rug. I'm like, it would show.
Yeah, they don't care. I can
The
tell.
updating guy spilled coffee on that
Yeah,
rug.
I
I
can
got
tell
it
it's
out.
not. So first day, I graduate Alabama. I go to Texas Tech. First day, I got a cup of hot coffee. I have an 8 a.m., a 9:30, and a 10:45. I lean back on the desk, sit on it, and fall. First minute of teaching, hot coffee.
Ah, that's rough. That's brutal.
Nothing.
Secondhand
worse.
embarrassment.
Not as bad as by 10:30 what it feels like to be covered in cold coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough. That is tough.
Nutty professor.
Hey.
Oh, dude, it was awful.
You really
Thank
wanted
you.
to be out of office.
There you go. Thank you.
This was awesome. Thank you.